I just think, Will, the idea that British sovereign territory can be attacked by a jihadi regime, and it's not in our Prime Minister's instinct to want to clap back on that.
Patrick, the man doesn't have any natural instincts. If you lobbed a tennis ball at him, I don't think he would move. This is a man thoroughly without conviction. He's no Trump. Oh, he's no Churchill. I would take a Chamberlain at the moment. At least Chamberlain had conviction. It was just the wrong conviction. Now, we've known this throughout his premiership, but there's one thing not to have any conviction on economic policy, but it is laid bare in times of crisis. But he will always be torn, looking to the left of his party, looking to, other stakeholders, by the tension between the interests of the Islamic vote and the interests of citizens of the United Kingdom and the interests of this nebulous international human rights law and the interests of the country. And because he doesn't have that foundation of conviction that Churchill had, that Thatcher had, that Chamberlain even had, he will never, ever be able to put the country in a safe, defendable position in times of crisis.
But by the way, we're going to talk about this a bit more at 10, because Starmer has popped up twice in the last couple of hours, again, to release videos to make it explicitly clear that Britain was not involved in anything to do with killing the Ayatollah. One of them is what we believe was an iftar event in the parliamentary estate this evening. Desperate to try to make it abundantly clear to people that we had nothing to do with the killing of the Ayatollah, and that just shows you which side he thinks his bread is buttered, doesn't it? But, Emma, when the Hezbollah attacks Akrotiri in Cyprus, Emmanuel Macron's instinct was to send, I read them out there, a catalogue of different warships and planes and submarines and all of this stuff to that area to try to defend that base. Starmer has dilly-dallied around for a bit, and we might be getting HMS Dragon in a couple of weeks.
No, it is dangerous to be this pathetic. And as Charlie pointed out there, we knew this was coming. The general public knew that this was coming because of the whole debate around Chagos. Trump obviously wanted to use it in order to be able to attack Iran. They've attacked now because Iran is in a particularly weakened state. There is absolutely no excuse for the Prime Minister, even if it was that he wanted to continue to slavishly obeying international law, even when it's not in the interests of this country, as he did over Chagos. Even then, if he was just thinking that we will act in defence, at the very, very least, he should have made sure that everything was ready to be deployed in order to defend our RAF bases, but also, as you say, it's British sovereign territory. The message this sends to the rest of the world is that Britain is we're just sitting ducks. So I really think people should be very, very angry, actually, at the Prime Minister, because this, like I say, it's dangerous to be this pathetic. He's putting us at risk.
Dangerous to be this pathetic, Jonathan.
I love how everyone's defending Macron. Macron was saying that this war is illegal, so obviously you disagree with him on some things, and he's absolutely right, by the way. And it amuses me, Emma, when you say we slavishly defending or following international law, so that's a bad thing. I can't imagine any situation where you would criticise someone for slavishly following domestic law, except when it's in our interest. Sorry, that doesn't matter if it's in your interest or not. There is such a thing called law, and you either follow it or you don't. I happen to believe that international law is a last bastion against chaos, disorder and barbarism. That's why it matters, particularly in times of crisis and peril.
Should he have not acted sooner when our own military bases were being attacked?
I am always willing to criticise Keir Starmer where it's due. I think that in this particular issue, it could have been deployed sooner. But I think his overall instinct on this one has been correct, which is to oppose this war for a start, to say that we're not going to play any part in attacking. He has allowed, it's funny that Trump is attacking him. He's actually allowing Trump to do what Trump wants to do within carefully sort of set out parameters and reasonable parameters, saying that you can use British bases to attack, for example, rocket launching bases, rather than sort of going for different targets. It's completely within our right to do that, by the way, and I find it very, very funny how these so-called patriots, the people on the right, who've never seen a war they didn't like, by the way, if Starmer had done everything Trump wanted, they would have accused Starmer of being a poodle and not having a backbone and surrendered our sovereignty. But because Starmer's actually standing up for British interests, they're accusing him of being some kind of anti-American traitor. And by the way, it's really important. It's really important to note that you're not in step with the British people on this, Patrick. 28%, only 28% of British people support this war. You're not even in step with the American people. 59% of Americans disapprove of this war.
Well, I'm sorry for not being as pro-Ayatollah as you, Jonathan.
I'm not pro-Ayatollah either, Patrick.
Like
Don't be so zero-sum game.
Like
Don't be so simplistic. You're better than that.
Sounds like it.
It doesn't. Well, it's not the case.
Oh, a lot of people are pro-Ayatollah at the moment. That's probably a damning indictment of where we're at.
International law is a nonsense. There is an enforcement
Unnecessary,
mechanism.
but
There
fine.
is an enforcement mechanism for domestic law. There is no enforcement mechanism for international law. I said this online the other day. If you think that Trump has contravened international law, call up the international police, tell me how you get on. It is a nonsense. If you think this is the last bastion against barbarism, then what you are saying is that people like Putin and Xi are only not committing bad behaviour because of Western precedent and international law, which is demonstrably untrue. They are already doing bad stuff. They couldn't care less
Yes,
about it,
Will,
which
and we
means that-
shouldn't put ourselves on their level. How about that?
Which-
you always talk about democracy values, but actually you just want to be the same as Iran. That's the truth of it, isn't it?
We talked about
The
interrupting.
same as Iran. I mean, that's such an unbelievable straw man. You've completely undermined any point that you would make
Right,
because
right.
it's such an unreasonable
He wants to be.
thing
So he just thinks Iran can break international law. Why can't we?
Well,
That's basically what you're saying.
In the case of the Chagos Islands, that judgment by the International Court was only advisory. So you just sound like you don't understand international law and how international law works.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Next UK, your go-to for real stories and sharp analysis.